So I made a traditional potato salad and Wiener Schnitzel the other week. And it got me to thinking, can I make the exact same thing vegan? And this is the result. So we're going to start off with boiling some potatoes. Now I've just washed the potatoes and I've left the skin on. And we're going to cover them with some fresh water and we'll get them on the stove and we're going to cook them until they're just tender. Try not to overcook them. Also, we don't need to season the water. The salt doesn't penetrate through the skin. As far as I'm aware anyway. My potatoes are cooked through and nice and tender. Now we're going to put this aside just to cool down for a minute. I put the sauce together for the potato salad. We're also going to be using this Hesperidin vinegar. If you can't get your hands on this stuff, use any type of wine vinegar. Also, we're going to be mixing it directly into the bowl that we're going to be making the potato salad in. It just makes things a lot easier. So we'll go in with that. We're also going to go in with some vegetable stock. All right, next we're going to put in some salt. I've also got some onions here. Now you could use just a normal yellow onion, but I decided to go with some shallots here. I think they've got a little bit of a milder taste. And all I've done is chop them up super fine. So we're going to bung those in as well. All right, next we're going to add some pepper. Okay, we're going to go ahead and give that a mix. Next ingredient is going to be some of this Austrian mustard. Now if you can't find this specific mustard, just go ahead and use any ordinary mustard. But if you can get your hands on that, that's what you want to use. So we'll plop that in. We're also going to add a little bit of sugar. All right, and we'll just go ahead and give that all a good mix. So the potatoes have cooled slightly, but they're still nice and warm. So we're just going to go ahead with a small knife and just give them all a good peel. Because they're still quite warm, if it gets too hot, like my hand's starting to burn up now, you can just put them on the board and just give them a good scrape like that. The skin should come off quite easily. Okay, once it's all peeled, you want to go ahead and slice them into coins. You want them about this thick, so not too thick, not too thin. I wouldn't get too caught up on how thick or thin you make these. Just try and make them not too thick, I would say, and all around the same size. That way you have a bit better of an eating experience. You want to plop them straight into the sauce. You want to go through and do the rest of the potatoes. I've got all my potatoes, ooh, I nearly lost them then. Got all my potatoes cut up into the marinade. Now, you could use a spoon, but you just want to gently give everything a good mix. So the potatoes are all nicely covered. Get everything settled down into the marinade, or the sauce, whatever you want to call it. And you want to let this sit out at room temperature for at least an hour, preferably a little bit longer, which is perfect because we've got to get some other stuff ready. So next, we're going to make some seitan, but I'm going to be using a pre-mixed packet this time. So first thing goes my water, and then I'm using this. This is not sponsored at all. I've never used this before. We'll see if it's the same, like making it your own. So, on the back of the package, it says it's a 1-to-1 ratio between this and water. And then, just give it a knead until it forms a dough. It needs a little scrape down. Like in all things when you use the stand mixer, give it a little scrape to make sure everything's getting combined good. Now, it is looking a little dry still, but we'll close it back down and keep mixing it. And we'll see if it comes together. Okay, with different light, we finally finished mixing it. So, I'm going to plop it out onto the work surface. I'm thinking I'm going to make a circle about this big. Once we finish cooking it, we can slice that in half, and then we'll make a schnitzel out of that. So, that's what I'm going to do. We'll coax this into a circle, and then we'll come back. I've come to realise that this is very hard to shape, this dough. I'm just going to cook it how it is. Once we finish cooking, then we'll cut it up how we need to. So I'm going to be cooking the seitan in this pan. So we're going to make the cooking broth straight into the pan. So I've got a little bit of leftover vegetable stock, which I'm in a little bit. Then we're going to put in a bit of vegan Worcestershire sauce. We'll make that too. All right, now I'm going to use some yeast extract, which comes in a tube over here. The best one would be Vegemite, but we're in Austria. It's kind of hard to come by. So we'll plop that in. All right, next we're going to put in a bit of mushroom sauce. Bung in a couple of those. And then we're going to put in a bit of liquid hickory smoke. And we're going to add some water. We'll give this a little mix up. Taste and adjust as we see fit. Okay, after seeing how much broth I got to how big my seitan is, I'm going to have to cook it in a smaller pot here. So we'll transfer that over. We'll plop the seitan in. And now I'm going to put this on the stove. I'm going to bring it up to a boil. And as soon as it starts boiling, I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I'll flip it. Another 10 minutes of boiling, it'll be cooked. Then we'll come back. My seitan's been boobling away for about 20 minutes total now. Now it doesn't say this on the packet, but I'm going to let it chill out in the broth there for about another 10 minutes, just to let everything, you know, calm down a little bit after that hard boil. Well, it wasn't really a hard boil, it was a boil. Then we'll come back and we'll take it out and give it a taste. I've got two other types of vegan schnitzel here. One with its lupin base, and another Seitan one where it's already made. So we'll get these out the packets, and then we'll give them a little bit of a closer inspection to see what's going on here. After I give it a little pat down, make sure it's nice and dry, I'm going to cut it in half. And looking at it, I would like this to be a little bit thinner, but I feel like if I cut it in half, it's already starting to crack in the middle. So I want to leave it how it is, and then we'll see how it turns out in the end anyway. So after tasting both of them, especially this one, I had to go back to the package because this one is already crumbed and fried, apparently. So with this one, I'm not going to do anything to it except put it back into the oil and fry it exactly how it is like that. This one will crumb and fry as well. We'll get on with that. I've let my seitan here rest for another 10 minutes in the broth. Now I've taken it out. Now we'll let this cool down some. I am super interested how this thing tastes. So I'm going to slice off a piece on the end here and give it a little taste test. I think that texture will be very nice. Same like a schnitzel. Same like a meat schnitzel, I should say. So now I'm going to slice this up into some pieces so we can dry it, and then we're going to fry it in the end. Typical schnitzel size, well, that I think is a typical schnitzel size, it's going to be about this thick. So I'm going to go through and cut the rest of them up and yeah, come back. So next we're going to make up the breading station. And because this is vegan, we're going to need an egg replacement because I'm doing a 3-station breading station. So we're going to try this out. Now on the back of the package here, says mix 5 grams with 50 mils of water. I'm doing 2. So we'll plop it in, give it a little mix up, and we just pour it out onto the plate. Realised that I didn't mix it very well, and I realised that this is probably not going to be enough liquid, so I'm going to make up the rest of the package. So there's one thing to note with this egg replacement. I poured it back in there, and I went through 2 different types of whisk that I have, plus the fork, and it's very hard to get the lumps out. And I think there's still some in there, but it should be alright. Alright, the next station is simple enough, just some flour. The last thing I got ready was the breadcrumbs. Now this is Kaiser roll, specifically, because traditional schnitzel and all. This is the oil I'm choosing to deep fry them in, because it has a buttery texture. It says so on the label, that's why I'm using it. And it has a vegan stamp, so you know, it has to go. I'm actually going to get this up to temperature on the stove first, before I crumb. So we're going to try the homemade one first, and I'm going to put some salt on it. So then we're going to pat it in the flour, dust off the excess, into the egg replacement. Make sure it's coated all around and let the excess drop off. And then, just like the meat schnitzel, we're going to sprinkle it over the top, and we're not going to press it in because we're going to try and get that good air bubble that you do on the regular schnitzels. So I'll just flip it over once, making sure we got full coverage. Now we'll head to the oil. To test the oil, wooden spoon in, it's bubbling away, so it's hot enough. Alright, in goes the schnitzel, and we're just going to do it like a regular one. Put it in, give it a little baste, and we cook it until it's nice and golden brown. So it's browning up quite quickly on one side too much. Now usually I don't like to flip the schnitzel, but in this case I think I will, just to get more browning on that top side there. So you just want to cook it till it's got some good browning on both sides. And I can actually see a little bit of puffiness on there, so it might be good. Okay, I'm happy. Before it splits, I'll move it to a plate lined with some paper towel, and we'll crack on with the rest. As I was cooking up the rest of them here, I noticed that these have quite large bubbles on them. I have no idea what that is, but I think it's from the fake egg. Put a little bit more oil on, it just expands. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. So full disclaimer, all those big bubbles that we saw forming in the pan, they kind of collapsed and they look kind of not so good. But alas, it's the taste that counts, right? Also, the chives on top is a must. This isn't just for garnish. You have to have chives with your potato salad. Now I must say, I actually prefer the potato salad I made today to the one where I made with the beef broth, but it's a bit of an unfair advantage because I did go to the farmer's market today and buy the exact potatoes that is meant for this dish, which is called Ditter in Austria, or Kipfler. It's not the same potatoes that I used last week, but you can interchange this Ditter or Kipfler, which I didn't exactly get last week. But still, I'm not actually sure what alternative you could use in other countries. It's just a potato that holds up when you cook it. It doesn't just fall apart like a potato that you would use for, you know, mashed potato or something like that. I must say, it's pretty damn good. Over to the schnitzel. So we'll try it without the jam first. While the texture is exactly like meat, has that good toothsome chew to it, the taste is not quite the same. So I've been told that if you don't eat meat for a long time, it's the texture, I'm pretty sure, that, you know, gives it that good meat feeling, and it probably hits the spot. Let's try the pre-breaded one and see how that one turned out. So the pre-breaded one, it's a little bit saltier in my taste. It's pretty bland. I'll probably pass on that one. Let's see about the lupin one. This one's quite thick. It kind of reminds me of the chicken schnitzel we get back home in Australia. In the frozen section, that is. That reminds me nothing of a schnitzel. At all. Not absolutely. Don't get me wrong. It tastes good, but if you're looking for a schnitzel, I wouldn't do that. I would take the one that we actually made from the flour, cut it up, a little bit of cranberry sauce on it. It actually works out pretty damn good. If you're vegan, vegetarian, or just looking to cut down on meat, but you still can't get away from the schnitzel, give this a try. You might be pleasantly surprised.